Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I am so happy that you are here today, joining us after getting back to normal for Nashville SC, or what we've been used to when it comes to this show for the past year and a half or so of following the Nashville SC loss. Of course, I'm here with Valer Shabilla. Clay Trainum unfortunately cannot show his face after a Cincinnati loss. Knowing that he hates Skyline Chili so much, he just is sad and does not want to be in the episode. So I have to deal with Valer by himself this entire episode. Valer, what's up?
It was a big match. It was a big match, and I thought we gave it on the show a great interview to kind of maybe not preview the match necessarily, but with Dax McCarty joining the show last episode last week. If you haven't listened to that, I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to it. If you did listen to that show and maybe you liked what you heard and you're tuning in again, thank you first and foremost. We had a really good response to the show. I had multiple people come up to me at the stadium as well as just online, and I think Dax is a professional, and not just in terms of on pitch, obviously, since he's still with Des Moines Menace, but also off of it, and the way he breaks things down, and obviously his connection to Nashville. I thought the episode came out really good. So I just want to thank everybody who tuned in last week. And if you're back, hey, thank you. If you're not back, you're probably not hearing this, but you should be back. So that's how I want to start off today.
I just want to let you know as well that Valer did not use that as any sort of promotion or any sort of something for pharmaceutical or 615 soccer like he should have been using it. No, he used that as a humble brag against me because I could not be on the episode. So that's really what Valer was going for with that kind of piece. So nice job. You both did a terrific job. I'm not going to lie. I loved it.
Thanks, Steven. Now tell me. Now, I heard that you were back in town for this match. Did you come back just because it's a Cincinnati match and that's something that brings you joy?
Well, yes, absolutely. But one, I learned my lesson. I am not coming back to Nashville again. So I apologize. The loss is probably on me. So I do apologize for that profusely. Two, Valer, it was great to see you over the weekend. I am glad I got to see you, even you at the tailgate, which is randomly something that does not happen. We do this show weekly, as our listeners have listened this entire time. And normally there is a face component to this episode that we are looking at each other while recording. You were so infatuated with the fact that I had a beard, even though we weekly record this show. You see it right now.
Yeah, now that you said it, I notice it. But at the time when I first saw it, it kind of threw me back for a second because, like, I hadn't seen you in person with a beard, and maybe I had saw it on your video, but since you use a camera from the 1940s, I don't see it as well. So it's just one of those things where in person it just looked a bit of a shocker to me that you had a beard and that you were trying to copy my style. Which again, it's fine. I'm flattered that you want to copy me and all that.
I mean, my hair is receding like crazy right now, so maybe I
Right.
might just have to start going with the Valair style of bald and beard. That just might be it.
That I cannot recommend it enough. But tell me how was your registered trip for Nashville? How was your weekend?
It was good. It was really good. It's always fun to come back. It's one of those things where I always get, and I'll just go into some personal stuff. I always get worried about my lasting impact on, uh, what I contribute to Nashville SC, and what I was able to provide in terms of capoing and supporters culture and all that type of stuff. It's always fun to see it still being in fruition, and always coming together. So I got to capo for a little bit, which was a lot of fun. I got a new kit, which is very cool. And I got to go celebrate after, which was a good time. Even though we were not celebrating a win, still got to hang out with friends and all of that. And I got to get Mitchell's Deli, which is always something extremely happy, in my opinion. I was dead though after that match. I totally forgot what it is like to capo, and it was exhausting to say the least for the 20 minutes that I did it.
Yeah, did you get a name or a number on your New Jersey?
I did get a name and number on my jersey.
Can you say it on air?
I cannot. I can. I
Okay.
mean, I can. I just got another Stan TF Up jersey, my normal log, and I just used the number of 69 this time. So,
All right. I actually did not know any of that, and I was genuinely curious. And now I feel like I shouldn't have been curious about that. Not a whole lot of my weekend. Got to celebrate. Well, I wasn't necessarily celebrating, but if you celebrate Eid, obviously there's a bunch of Nashville SC players, at least three Nashville SC players who do celebrate. It's the I hate calling it this, but it's Muslim people's Christmas, right? Kind of thing. So this was kind of the celebration to end fasting with Ramadan. So I got to hang out with some friends who were celebrating yesterday and kind of enjoy that with them. Even though I am not personally celebrating, but I know a lot of people who are. So other than that, a pretty boring weekend. Maybe not boring, just an average weekend all around. Not a whole lot for me. A lot of soccer and stuff like that. Arsenal weren't playing, so I didn't get to watch any of the English stuff because I don't really care for it. That said, I got to see Nashville SC and in person against Cincinnati, of course. And I think this MLS season it's getting to that point where like that newness is gone now. So it's kind of like we're back to the middle of it in a way, even though it's been 6 weeks. But I think that the effects of that are being felt by Nashville SC too, because there was this high of like sort of 3 game winning streak, and then now there's a loss, and it kind of brings you back to reality a little bit. I feel like. So
well, let's talk about that a little bit then, because I'm very curious on your end. Just because there is, I think this, I've talked about this a decent amount. Where one of the things I was excited for was more chatter about this team, right? More things kind of happening in the purview of fans' reactions, fans being a part of it. Heck, we see it on the Discord, the 615 Soccer Discord. There was
mhm.
more communication about this match than any match that I've seen currently. What what is that reality, Valer? Is the reality of this is where this team is? Is this a good team? Is this a bad team? Based on Saturday, based on the performances you've seen so far, what is the reality of this team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as simple as like good and bad, right? I mean, I think it just goes in. There's a lot of elements to what is good and what is bad, but I think what it goes back to is expectations and what each person thinks of this Nashville SC team. I think it's fair to say that coming into the season, maybe not nobody, but most everybody did not expect Nashville SC to be in those top 4 spots in the East. I mean, I don't think any rational person looked at this team and said they're going to be top 4, especially when you look at the teams they're challenging against, including FC Cincinnati, who they just lost to. However, that's not the be all. You don't deem a season successful or not of whether or not you made top 4, especially with the season that Nashville SC were having last year compared to this year. So I think it's all relative in terms of what do you expect from this team. One thing I'll say for sure is you are right, Steven. There's more discourse about this loss than there has been for a Nashville SC loss in a while. And I think when you look at how last season ended, losses were just kind of run of the mill regular stuff,
It was just normal. Yeah,
Yeah,
just normal. This was the outlook of who we are as a team.
right. And then when you look at this season, the Red Bulls loss was kind of still fresh and new. It was just the second game of the season. And I think people were still kind of getting used to it, to where this one really solidified that people have expectations of this team. And I think Elm on our Discord, on the 615 Soccer Discord, said that them caring about this loss means they have expectations for the team. And I can't agree more with that statement. People expect Nashville SC to win now. People expect Nashville SC to be good. And maybe, it's 3 games that they won straight, and that's not like some sort of it's not it's a small sample size and all that to be said. However, it still built that excitement and built that entertainment and built that belief and the expectation to continue to win. And that's what winning does. It does. You want more of it, right? And that's what BJ Callahan has been talking about since he came in last season. So I think it's a good sign. I know it's a loss, so it's maybe not a good sign for the team, but I think it's a good sign in terms of how this team is perceived within Nashville and outside of it as well.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that as well. It's fun to see people caring again. It's absolutely fun to see people caring again. Heck, we see it when it comes to people listening to the show, telling us what they want to hear in the show as well. It really it doesn't feel like this team is just randomly here. It feels like this team is doing something, and we're going to talk more in detail about the match specifically in the next segment. There's a lot to talk about involved in it as well because the performance actually wasn't all that bad. And we are going to talk about that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also check us out on 615soccer.com. Please, 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 if you are a fan of Nashville Soccer Club, no matter what, we would love to have you as a paid subscriber, but there's a ton of free content on there as well. I think one of the things I really appreciated, especially after capoing for the first half of the match, not being able to see it, was the recap of the match afterwards, the written recap of it. It was really cool to see that comes right into your inbox. So if you want to be a part of that, please check out 615soccer.com. But there's also a lot of paid content that you can go check out. One of those players, there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be some data on one of those players as well in that content. So please check that out. Seriously, there's so much cool stuff there. Also, pharmasoccer.com for all the merch you can possibly wear. Would love to have you in Pharmasoccer merch. Okay. Nashville SC, of course, losing to so FC. God, I don't even want to say losing to FC Cincinnati. That hurts so much. But losing to FC Cincinnati 2-1. Of course, Nashville's goal coming from top goal scorer Josh Bauer. Is that the case? By the way, is he top goal scorer at the current moment?
I think he's tied with Ahmed Qasim with 2 goals each.
What everybody predicted at the beginning of the season is coming to pass. Josh Bauer, of course, being tied for Nashville SC's top goal scorer. Then, of course, Nashville getting scored on by I didn't see it in person. That was an absolute banger of a free kick. Like, just absolutely nothing you could do. Like, just incredible. Like, and then, of course, the penalty happening, which we will talk about here in a little bit. How do you want to talk about this match, Valer? Like, what is the best way? Do you want to talk about the do you want to talk about the annoyances? I think at first, from the Nashville SC perspective, I think probably what all the fans are probably mad about.
Yeah, I think we should start off with the penalties, I should say. But let's just tackle that because I think that's kind of the biggest thing that happened within that match. I thought it was a pretty even match, all things considered. Probably one of the most even matches I've ever seen, even when it came to penalties and the awarding of the penalties. That said, I think let's just talk about Nashville's penalty first. I think that's kind of one of the ways we can start this. And for Nashville to get that penalty, I don't want to say it's soft, but it's not always given. Let's just say that. Denke just came onto the game. It's early in the second half. He kind of holds Walker Zimmerman, then he lets him go, but the damage was kind of done. Walker can't get to the ball. Referee sees it right away. To his credit, calls a penalty. I was pretty surprised. I couldn't see it. I was watching the thing from the press box and still couldn't see what the penalty was. Upon replay, it looked like a penalty. That's a foul anywhere else on the pitch. Again, I've seen a lot of referees don't give those on corners. At this point, it's a 1-1 game. Hani Mukhtar steps up. 4th penalty in 6 matches for Nashville SC. I think that's a big thing to consider here. 4th penalty for Nashville SC in 6 matches. Hani Mukhtar steps up. Is saved by Solentano. Really good save, to be fair. Pretty good penalty from Mukhtar, but it's a good save. So from those 4, Nashville SC has missed 3, and they have scored 1. And that's and missed is not the correct word actually here. 3 penalties were saved by the goalkeepers, and 1 was scored, which was the Panenka Hani Mukhtar did in Philadelphia.
And just to put that kind of into stats comparison, I think the bet like one of the best goalkeepers in the world at saving penalties had a percentage point of like he saved 20% of his penalties or something like that. And that was the best, like that was crazy in existence that he saved 20% of his penalties. Like we
Yes.
should and the fact that we are at a 25% conversion rate is not terrific.
It's probably unprecedented in terms of what's out there. I don't have the stats in front of me. I can't tell you that. What I can say is that this is not. I've just seen a lot of, I don't know what to call it, just overreaction. I guess let's just go with that. I've just seen a lot of like, do they not practice these? It's like, of course they practice these. You know what I mean? Like it's it's not ideal that your main penalty goal scorer is not a good penalty taker. I understand that, and I understand the frustration. But I think there's also room for saying, this is frustrating. I don't like this. I wish Nashville could have done better. I wish Hani Mukhtar can get better at penalties. All these are valid thoughts. And then trying to tie this into some sort of Hani Mukhtar is a no good DP for this team and he should be like gone. And I just don't understand that sort of line of thinking. I don't understand how you go from this penalty miss to like, oh, this guy doesn't deserve to be on the team. And then I start hearing stuff about how he wasn't good in the last couple games, or he's like, he has an assist, he scored the penalty in Philadelphia, and he's been a good connector on the pitch. So like, I just I just want to make sure that we're addressing this accurately on this show of like, yeah, it really sucks and they should score these penalties. But at the same time, Hani Mukhtar has had an all right season thus far. Maybe not his greatest season, but it hasn't been anything sort of terrible. Or he's not like he's still the star of this team. Like I'm sorry to tell y'all, like he's still the man of this team.
Yeah, and I think with Hani, it's very interesting because I think from a penalty I think there has to be a fix from a penalty perspective, but I actually don't think taking Hani off of penalties is the fix. He went through this a couple years ago when we lost to Philadelphia when he did miss his penalty, which was very unfortunate. But then after that, I think he hit like 10 in a row or something like that the next season. Like it was something crazy where he was just converting every single penalty. So like we know it's there when it comes to a Hani perspective. I think it's just kind of with Hani specifically, Clay was going to do a Villarreal. No, Hani is not washed. No, because Hani got married, he's not going to become the player that he, is again because he had a kid. It's not. There's a ton of players that have kids in Major League Soccer that can still play soccer. Like
Yeah.
Hani, it's not going. Is it going to maybe like do some variation? Cool, but Hani is not washed because of that. Hani is putting in just as much work as every other player is, if not more, on the pitch. I think when it comes to Hani specifically, it is just who he is as a player, and that's not a bad thing. He's historically had just beginning of the seasons that were not terrific, and we were all wondering, oh my God, what's going to happen to Hani? Heck, even his MVP year, he didn't start. He didn't get that. The not his MVP year, the year before his MVP year, where he should have won MVP, but he didn't get it because of the fact that he didn't have that good of a beginning of the season. He's a player that needs to be able to adapt, figure stuff out, and build that confidence. And he has a brand new coach in his first offseason, and that's going to take time because he's playing a position that he's not necessarily used to. So I think some of that is going to affect him. I think some of it from a confidence perspective as well is going to affect him. I think he's going to be okay. I understand the concern. I look. I was just as mad about him missing that header on the backside, just as everybody was. Like I was extremely mad about him missing that header. But I think give it a couple more matches before we figure out where Hani is specifically. Um,
I don't think it was a header. I think it was with his foot. The one
or
that hit the post.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes,
It
on the
was yeah,
backside.
yeah. No, I mean, yeah, and that's really it. I mean, like, would anybody be shocked if Hani goes to Charlotte and scores a brace? Like,
No,
would anybody be like, oh, where did that come from? Like, had such a terrible season. It's not that anyone who's watching this team can tell you that. And not, the one thing that people are one of the biggest contributor of why people think Hani's having a bad season is because other people are scoring for Nashville SC.
Right.
Like how is this his fault? Like other folks are scoring. Ahmed Qasim has 2 goals. Josh Bauer has 2 goals, and because of that, now Nashville is sort of not depending on him as much on Hani, and that all of a sudden becomes now. I do want to I don't want to take all blame away from him. He'd still missed that penalty. He still missed that chance, and he's a DP. He's expected to score these, but he knows that more than anyone else. And I think if you go talk to him right now, he will be very open about that. I did see somebody sent me a Facebook thing saying that Hani's priorities are not on the pitch anymore. And I just thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've heard in my life. I'm sorry, guys. On this show, we're not gonna do that. Just if you're looking for someone to freak out about one bad game, maybe just go to a different show. We're just not gonna do that here. That said,
and Valer doesn't tell you to go listen to other stuff. That doesn't happen normally. He doesn't do that all the time. This is is it kind of fun though? It is kind of fun that we're getting this recourse again, right? We didn't even have this conversation last year. We just had the conversation of Hani's not doing well. Oh, really? Why is Hani not doing well? I don't know. It was just fine, and it was what to expect. But now it's just randomness of, oh no, he has a family, so that's why he sucks. No, that's not the case, y'all.
So to kind of continue talking about the game, the penalties were obviously the big ones, but I do want to kind of look at this in a different way. And this is a brand new idea. No one else in the world has ever done this. And no show out there ever does these things. But I want to look at stock rising and stock falling for Nashville SC, players, staff, whatever, of just 6 games into the season. And especially looking at it from this sort of Cincinnati outlook after this match. I think I want to start with stock rising for something that happened within the Cincinnati match, and then we can kind of take the big picture. Josh Bauer. Josh Bauer comes in as a backup, technically center back, who's filling in at right back because Julian Gaines is injured and Andy Nahar is on international duty. Josh Bauer gets a goal. And
yeah. I would disagree there. I think it's one of the things, not necessarily from his positioning perspective, actually from his positioning perspective. He was brought into this team by Gary Smith as a center back specific role. But we've seen him during preseason, during these times of being more in that kind of right back position, where I think that's probably why he got the contract that he did, is to kind of play that hybrid. If he's needed at right back, he can play right back. If he's needed at center back, he can play center back type of thing, where he's been needing at right back, which, by the way, shout on him for the goal and being there. I think it's one of those things where what is it a good goal or a luck goal? And should the player get more credit for it, just the ball kind of falling? But he's got to be in the right position for that. He knows what the play is on that set piece. He's got to be in the right position for that. He didn't Gritty again, though, so we got to have that conversation with it. Has he retired to Gritty?
A different celebration. It was a Eurostab that he traveled for, but it is what it is. But I will say this is his second goal, obviously, in 2 games, in 2 starts, but just overall, if you take the goals out of it, he's a right back. The goals are very, very nice. Don't get me wrong, but away from that, he has been playing really well. I think he had a little bit of an iffy moment there at Cincinnati. I think Oriciano drove at him and kind of got the best of him once or twice. But overall, I am a little not shocked, but I am a little surprised that he was able to contribute a little bit going forward as well. We all know he kind of had the defensive, the defensive skills to deal with attacks. But seeing him being able to go forward and overlap at times and put a cross in or take a shot from outside the box, or these are the sort of things that only a confident player would do, or only a player who has been given that sort of freedom does, right? And I think having somebody who admittedly he admits that center back is his most comfortable position, to be able to do something like that when covering for a right back is, I think, really good. And I think it's going to give BJ Callahan a little bit of a headache of who to put at right back now.
Well, yeah, and I think it's a terrific segue as well, just because of the fact that him and Andy Nahar are two completely different players. But I think the funny thing about it is both of them completely fit in the system that is being played. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily understand how that works again. I am not a tactical mastermind. But for some reason, when Andy Nahar is in the position that he is in, it fits. It works. It's obviously shown, throughout the season when he's played. And same thing with Josh Bauer. He's been in the right positions. And I think I think that has a testament to our next stock rising person, which would be BJ Callahan. Is it him just getting I think the way to talk about it from the Cincinnati match is we last year, there were teams and multiple times we did not look like we belonged on the field with. Cincinnati included in that kind of scenario. It didn't look like that on Saturday.
Yeah.
Some bad breaks here and there. It looked like we belonged on the field with Cincinnati. And I think there's a lot we have to attribute to the way that BJ Callahan is coaching this team.
Yeah, and look, I know there are no points for belonging on the pitch or whatever, but these sort of things build up. And when you have a coach who is clearly taking a step forward in terms of how this team plays with the ball and without the ball, how this team approaches things, but most importantly, these sort of cultural things that maybe we don't see day to day. We hear about them, they sound a little bit like cliches of creating this environment, this competitive environment, all that sort of stuff. But BJ Callahan is really good at that, and he has proven that. I think so far, regardless of how the rest of the season goes, is that what he can do is have players play for him, and those players out there are playing for him. They're doing exactly what he wants on the pitch. Now, some of them, there's a learning curve. Obviously, there's a lot of sort of movement that needs to some improvement that needs to happen, or just relearning certain things. But overall, you have a coach who came in, assessed the situation last season where the team wasn't ready to implement what BJ Callahan wanted them to do. Did all right with them, didn't make the playoffs eventually, had a preseason, have this season. Now this team plays exactly how BJ Callahan wants them to play. And that is something to have everybody bought in, even though bringing in 10 or 11 new players into the squad and having them bought in, having the youth players bought in, that is all from BJ Callahan. That's why I have him in the stock rising, because I think right now, Nashville fans are very much high on BJ Callahan, as they should. But I think even with this loss, there's a clear sort of shift of blame from the coach. Like, I haven't seen a single person say this is BJ Callahan's fault. You
I
know,
haven't either. No, I
so
have not either.
that is such a different vibe than a year ago. Like
Oh, absolutely.
so I just want to make sure, like, we're saying that, like, yes, he hasn't reached anything, he hasn't won a trophy or anything like that, but I think he's on the right path and taking those steps of kind of becoming that coach for Nashville SC and what they need from him to be.
Well, I think it's really cool because people do see it was actually an even game. It was an extremely even match between Cincinnati and Nashville. And if it was a different night, everything could have broke Nashville's way. It would have been our penalty and their penalty miss, but it wasn't. It was just one of those nights, those MLS nights that we used to talk about, where Gary Smith would, randomly lose 1-0 in the 92nd minute because something bad. It's not necessarily because the team was playing bad, but just sometimes it happens in that way. Do I hate that it's against Cincinnati? Yes, I do. But it, you know, no.
And I do want to remind folks that, like, Cincinnati is an elite team within MLS. Like, they've spent. I need to go back and look at the numbers. That's what I was going to do. I kept forgetting to do that. But I think Cincinnati spent this window more than Nashville SC has spent in their entire existence on transfer fees. Just this window.
Yeah.
So that's, like, let's put some perspective into this as well.
I just want it to be known by people that Valer hopped on before the show started and wanted me to be on my game specifically, and now here we are. He's forgetting to do numbers and everything, but it's fine. Everything's fine. One of the other stock rising things you brought up, and I'm very curious about this, just because I'm curious on where you're kind of going with this. The stock rising of Mike Jacobs as kind of GM and president of the operations of the team. What is your kind of thought process in that, Valer?
Yeah, I don't think he's the president. I think he's the general manager. But yes, I think I put him in the stock rising column just simply because when you talk to Nashville SC fans at the moment, they are his approval rating, let's just say that, has doubled, if not tripled, since again a year ago. I think there was a lot of sort of discourse about his ability and capability of building a team, building a roster that could compete, and I thought those concerns were valid. I think when your team finishes 13th, and when when all you know how to do is play in one certain way and no other way around it, and not being able to create and not utilizing the U22 spots, a lot of things can go against them. Maybe waiting for the summer for DPs. They did that twice within his entire sort of time in Nashville. So I think when you going from that to being able to bring in so many new players and pretty much hit on every single one of them. I mean, Brian Acosta, we don't know what's happening there. He seems injured, and but even if Brian Acosta doesn't play a single minute for Nashville SC in 2025, this was probably one of the most successful, if not the most successful, window for Mike Jacobs since 2020 in building the team.
Well, I even think Acosta is more of a low risk, low reward piece that we just
Yeah.
needed for depth evenly. I do think a lot of the issue and a lot of the interesting things when it comes to Mike Jacobs had to do with trust. Do we trust Mike Jacobs specifically in the rebuild of this team? And I think there was a lot of people that did not trust him specifically.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were actually concerned about the BJ Callahan hire being extremely too safe for this city, or hey, we're not going to go in for one of those big names. We're just going to, try to find some U22 players in Norway to hopefully help out this squad. We didn't necessarily have that trust that Mike Jacobs was going to do that. I do think a lot of that has built up a decent amount. I think it'll be very curious to see what happens during the summer window, where we're at specifically in the summer window. But it would be I'd be very curious to say we're in sixth place when the summer window happens. Are we going to be a buyer in a play of trying to get a higher playoff position with players? Are we going to be a seller? Like, I'd be very curious on where that kind of leads. But I think for the current moment, the way that the team is being built, the players that are being put in, it was fun to see Eddie's name be announced like in the stadium, just to see how crazy fans have already locked on to the Eddie Taxit train.
Yeah.
But I think so far a lot of that trust has been built back up, and it's been built back up in me for sure. And I'm excited to see where it continues for the rest of the season and his tenure as GM.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there, and then I think these things are fluid. I mean, a couple of mistakes here and there, but one thing we just can't we can't talk negative about is the build so far of this season. But obviously, a lot of things are still to be seen in terms of what this team can achieve and what the ceiling is. I do want to go to a less fun category here, which is stock falling. And the names I have here, that doesn't mean I'm saying stock is falling for them, but I'm just saying I thought we talked about Mukhtar quite a while to start off this segment, so we don't have to mention him. But I think his stock is falling. But I just want to say one more thing on the Mukhtar stuff, and maybe we can move on since we gave him like 10 minutes of the show already. I don't think Mukhtar's stock falling is a bad thing for Nashville SC. And what I mean by that is that for 5 seasons, all we've asked is someone else in attack to come in and help Hani Mukhtar for Nashville SC. And Nashville have finally found other pieces who can come in and contribute. That doesn't mean Mukhtar is not going to contribute. That's not what I'm saying. But maybe Mukhtar not being the guy for Nashville SC is not a bad thing, because now you have 3 or 4 guys who can step up and take you out of a bad situation and win you a game, score a penalty, or whatever it may be. That's sort of that's the evolution of a team that was dependent on one player, and now they have all these other pieces. So I do think his stock is falling in terms of he was MVP and he no longer is an MVP and he's not playing at MVP level. But I don't see that as a bad thing, especially if he can contribute as an effective DP.
Yeah, and I think that for me, when it comes to Hani, I think is where where ultimately is Hani going to be kind of in this positioning, and when is he going to figure it out? In my perspective, and this is just on the eye test for me specifically, the reason why he did fit so well in that kind of striker free flowing role when he was under Gary Smith is because everything production wise went through Hani Mukhtar.
Yeah.
Everything did. That's not the case in this system. It's just not. A lot of the wingers are being a lot more involved in the plays and build-ups and situations. The midfielder being asked a lot. The midfielder being asked to do a ton. So what does that mean for a more narrow kind of Hani Mukhtar that is a little bit more? I still don't know if that's fully figured out yet, and I think that's probably some of the reason why Hani is he doesn't have as many chances to kind of put it plainly where he needs to be, but I think he can still get there. I'm very curious to see how that kind of directs throughout the rest of the season and where that data kind of is. Another player that you do have listed on here, Valer, I'm very curious about this as well, would be Walker Zimmerman. Do you actually think Walker Zimmerman's stock has fallen?
No, I listed him just so I can disagree with it. It's a take I've seen online so much, especially after the penalty he conceded against Cincinnati. But I just cannot disagree with this more. Like, I don't want to, like, if that's what you think, if you think Walker Zimmerman is not as good for this team as he was, I don't want to, like, just tell you your opinion is wrong, but your opinion is wrong. I'm sorry, but this guy, Walker Zimmerman, is everything for Nashville SC. He, I, every player on that pitch plays better if Walker Zimmerman is on the pitch. And he's the captain of the team. He's the face of the team. But away from all that, away from the intangibles and all that, on the pitch, if you just see how many times Walker Zimmerman stepped up almost to midfield and even into Cincinnati's half and won a header to win possession for Nashville SC, if you just see those pieces alone from the entire game, you would think he was the man of the match. So, like, I know he kind of made a mistake. I don't even know if you can call it a mistake. He was jumping backwards and his hand was up. I don't know what he's supposed to do there. Cut off his arm? Just sounds, it's just one of those things where it's unfortunate. It is a penalty. I saw it again, and I am convinced now it's a penalty. I just don't think it's Walker's fault necessarily for that. And I just don't see this whole sort of thinking of like, oh, like he's sort of fallen off or he's not as good, because I do think he is literally the heartbeat of this team, and not just, again, the intangibles are great, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, the way he sets an example for everybody else, but also on the pitch, he's still very effective and one of the best defenders in the league.
I love seeing the life cycle of your journalistic integrity, Valer. When it is, we're doing well, hold up, let's hold off on the overreaction, everybody. Let's calm down, let's figure this out. And then when something bad happens, it is no, everybody hold up, shut up. We're still fine, we're still good. You don't have to worry. It's just great to see you at the same level as all. It's very nice. I appreciate it. And I would agree when it comes to Walker Zimmerman, guys. He's the heart. He's playing extremely well. I have nothing for it. It's not Walker's fault. It's just not. He's playing extremely well. Yeah, I don't have anything else other than to go on to the next player.
Yeah, the last one I have listed here for stock falling is Qasim. And I do think he had a really rough second half against Cincinnati. That said, look, these things happen. He's 21 years old. He's not going to come in and start every game. And that's what I was trying to tell people. He's not going to average 1 goal contribution a game. That's an MVP season. Like, let's be realistic here. What is expected from him? The good thing here is that Nashville SC has options other than Qasim. So Schaffelberg can come in and start maybe a couple games. Then Qasim can earn his spot back. Or Taxat can play in that position. We've seen him play. Muyl has been starting in that position as well. Later, Tyler Boyd will come in and play Perez as well. You have all these options here now. So if a player is not performing well, or maybe a player is going through a little bit of a dip in form, it happens, especially for a 21-year-old who's still living in a hotel. Like, let's be realistic here. He's not going to score every game, guys. At the same time, that doesn't mean he's a bad player. And I think there's a place sort of in the middle to say he's acclimating to everything around him. He's getting better, but at the same time, that contribution might not be there. And I think that for the first time in a long time, Nashville SC actually has options who are also contributing with goals on the bench that they can bring in for him.
I was thinking about this, and it was really funny as I was thinking about it. Do you think if Gary Smith was the manager of Nashville SC, do you think we would have seen Kasim on the pitch yet at all?
I think we wouldn't have seen Qasim signed.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And I don't mean that like, and I don't mean that in sort of like a degrading thing, but like as a general manager, you sign players who will play. You're not gonna sign players that you think are good. Those are two different things. And
Yeah.
you sign players for Gary Smith or you sign players for BJ Callahan. Ahmed Qasim is not a player for Gary Smith.
Right. And like, and I think that's kind of like the interesting, and the reason why I think about that is do I think Kasim's form is where it needs to be? No, of course I don't. Do I think he's actually, playing in the style? Like, do I think he could? Is he getting used to the style still, and it's still not the same? Yes, of course I do. Like, I don't necessarily think Kasim is 100%, but what we've seen from Kasim at 60, 65%, 70% is something to absolutely be excited about.
Yeah.
Like, this is a player that's still, like Valaire said, is probably still living in a hotel, probably does not even have an apartment yet. Like, we're still kind of going through a young player coming into this league, trying to learn about this league on the fly while starting for this team, and has players like you said, like Jacob Schaffelberg, kind of in the mix, that can come in there. I agree with you. I don't necessarily. I do think from an outside looking in, his stock is falling, but everybody, let's pump the brakes on Kasim. He's a really good player. If we had to put everybody, daddy chill. Everybody, that is what I would say specifically is daddy chill. Everything is going to be perfectly fine with this team. And we're going to be able to show that next week when we play Charlotte. And we're going to talk about that next right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And like I mentioned in the first segment, you can also check us out at 615soccer.com. Would love to help you. Would love to have you be a part of that. It's a good spot. Good stuff going on there. 615soccer.com. Valaire's been doing a ton of content over there. It's been crazy. So just please make sure you do check that out. How do you want to start? You want to talk about Huntsville? I think talking about Huntsville is easy.
Yeah, so I do want to give one more sort of plug to the story I did with Ronan for 615 Soccer. It's called Inside Huntsville City FC. And we took a look. We went to Huntsville. We went down, and Joel actually came with us and took some pictures as well. And we took a look at what does the operation look like for Huntsville SC. So I highly recommend, if you haven't read that, to go to 615 Soccer and look up all 3 parts. It's a 3-part story. It's kind of long, but I think it's all really, really good information for anybody trying to learn more about what's going on in Huntsville. I did watch most of their game against Philadelphia 2 on Friday. So it's generally their games are a day before or a day after Nashville SC games, which makes it easier to watch if you're interested in. Obviously, it's on Apple Season Pass. Really impressive game against Philadelphia Union 2, who is one of the better teams out there when it comes to young talent, specifically when it comes to having a certain Kevin Sullivan, who is, the next Bailey, according to everybody you hear. So, who did score a goal against Huntsville. They ended up tying 2-2. In MLS Next Pro, you go to penalties, and in penalties, Huntsville won their first shootout in, I want to say, like a year and a half or something. Shout out to Ronan, because he's been going there and covering those games for 615 Soccer. So make sure to keep an eye on that. I do want to say a couple players who caught my eyes a little bit for Huntsville. It's an easy one because they both contributed with goals, but Christian Kofi, who came in from Chicago Fire 2, he came in with a lot of sort of European pedigree, if you would. That's kind of how they described it to us. And he was in Monaco's academy as well as Fiorentina's academy for a little bit. Those are big teams in Europe, and then kind of things didn't pan out for him, right? So he's now at Huntsville. But man, when he was playing, it was like man against boys. He's a 24-year-old French player. I think maybe Ivory Coast eligible as well. But he was playing on the left first, and then when they switched formation, he kind of went to the middle, and he was just so good on the ball and was able to kind of take advantage of a lot of space that was he created for himself. And then the other one, Damian Barker John, again another player. He's younger, he's 20 years old, but man, he was really good. He got a goal and an assist. So again, I know it's easy to pick the guys who contributed, but those two players were definitely above everybody else. Again, go to 615 Soccer for Huntsville coverage. Ronan and Jeff as well. They both do a great job with it.
Very nice. Yeah, no, like the Huntsville coverage has been great. It's been it's been nice to learn just more about what's going on down there. So appreciate that. Also, another announcement that did come up today that we do need to discuss is Open Cup. Nashville is actually hosting the first round of the when they come into the tournament in the fourth round, I believe, third round, fourth round,
Third round.
Third round. When they do come into the U.S. Open Cup tournament, they will be hosting. There's a slew of teams that could be it possible for us to be hosting. Who are you excited for, Flair? What are you hoping for Open Cup?
Yeah, we always talk about how much this competition means to me, and to a lot of us here, who kind of follow soccer in America. It's a 110-year-old competition. It's one of the oldest soccer competitions in the world that still go on. And I think having recently MLS teams have been on and off of it, and I just don't agree with that, and I wish they would all just play in this and play. But because of that, I think it does give a good opportunity for Nashville SC to go out there and maybe make a run for a cup. We've talked about this a lot. We talked about it even in the preview with David Goss. I want Nashville. Well, first I want to see. I want to say the game is on May 6th at home at Geodis Park. So May 6th, 7 p.m. It will be the game. There's a lot of opponents out there. What I would like to see is somebody Nashville SC hasn't played before, and it's usually categorized by geographical area. So I wouldn't mind one of the Knoxville team, the one Knoxville team, or couple of the Chattanooga teams there still kicking. They're playing against each other, I think. So one of them would be nice. I know Chattanooga FC, Nashville FC has some sort of history with them. I wasn't there for that, but that would be a nice sort of to have a state rival come in. Rival used loosely, but I also wouldn't mind, maybe somebody new like Lexington SC to come in and, played already in a friendly. I guess all I'm saying is that from the lower teams, which is most likely for Nashville to face, I don't want to see another game against Louisville City, even though that stadium is nice. And but I just think I want to see somebody else play Nashville SC.
That's fair. I'm excited for the Open Cup. I was happy that we didn't do good last year, so we could be in the Open Cup, and that's all we have to be in, and not the Leagues Cup, so we can win that tournament. And I would really appreciate if we did that, especially with May schedule is insane. The fact that they're playing the first week, like the first schedules, and I think we have like 8 something insane an insane amount of matches in May already. So like the fact that they're also putting Open Cup first round in there is kind of nuts. So I'm excited to see how it goes for Nashville on that standpoint. But we do play one other piece of news I do think we need to bring up. Peter Vermees being let go from SKC, probably biggest coaching news being fired since Gary Smith getting let go. I think it's something that we just need to bring up, as Mike Jacobs does come from that pedigree when it comes to working with Peter Vermees. Peter Vermees is an MLS legend. He's been coaching SKC since 2009. Very curious to see what direction they go. We just want to bring that up. But we play Charlotte on Saturday in Charlotte, in Queen City itself. Charlotte scares me. They are a really, really good team.
Yeah, so these two teams have an identical record, 3 wins and 2 losses and 1 draw. The one thing differentiating that they even have very similar goal. They have the same goal difference. Charlotte has scored 1 more goal, and Nashville has conceded 1 fewer goals. That said, the one thing that's clearly different between these two teams is that home record. The home record for Charlotte is perfect, 3 wins from 3 matches. Matter of fact, the last time they lost at home was in August of 2024. This is a team that doesn't lose at home. This is a team that doesn't give you much at home. Defensively, they are very, very sound. They have one of the best defensive sort of units, including their midfielders in that. offensively, they've had some issues, and that's kind of where they find themselves losing to Colorado away. But again, at home, this is a very, very strong side. They beat Cincinnati at home 2-0. They beat San Jose at home 4-1, and they beat Atlanta United 2-0 at home. They've conceded one home goal in 3 matches. Again, this is a very, very good side. They're right there with Nashville SC in the table, but I think a lot of people have them penciled in that sort of top 4 spots in the East.
Yeah, and I mean their last loss was to Miami after getting a red card. Like it's not like it's a team that their schedule has been nuts too. It seems like. I mean they beat Cincinnati. You know they've had a pretty big, pretty good teams that they've played. So I'm very curious to see how it goes. Charlotte is a team that currently scares me. With that being said, Valer, why don't you give your plug and predictions?
Yeah, I think Charlotte's offense will cause Nashville to see some problems. I think they're a little more direct with Zaha. Yeah, by the way, Wolfer Zaha plays for them. I felt like we should mention that. Pep Biel has had an incredible season so far. I think he's had 5 or 6 goal contributions already this season, which is just incredible. 6 games in, and then obviously Patrick Agyemang, who's you know if you're a USMNT fan, you've heard of him already. I don't know, man. Should I do it? Should I predict a loss, or is that too negative for you?
That's fine with me. That's
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 fine
who
with
you
you.
are. It's who you are as a person. It's fine.
Okay, I'll go with a 1-0 loss to Charlotte FC. I think I don't see Nashville SC being able to break down this defense at its current form. So yeah, I think I'm going for a 1-0. Very frustrating 1-0. The goal might come from a penalty or something like that. But follow 615 Soccer everywhere. And if you want to follow me, at Valer Shabilla on Twitter, Blue Sky, or Instagram. I have all your Nashville SC coverage and more. So make sure you're following.
At PH Steven HD on all of my stuff. My predictions have been the same as the results have been coming in. So this is the first week I'm going to change that because that's messed up now. So I think I'm going to go with a 3-2 win. I think Nashville is going to actually break this team down. I think Ajiman will score a couple goals for Charlotte, but I think Sam Surge will get one. I think Hani Mukhtar will score a penalty. And I think Walker Zimmerman will score one off of a corner. So thank you again so much for listening to this show. We always truly appreciate it. We will, of course, be back next week to talk about it and look forward to doing that. Thank you again so much for listening to the show. Go check out 615soccer.com, and we will see you and talk to you next week.